What if the very thing you chase in secret is the root of your public downfall? Lust has been romanticized. They tell you it's natural, harmless, human, but so is hunger. And when a man lets his hunger guide his decisions, he becomes a slave to the table he should have owned. Lust is not a release. It is not pleasure. It is a leash. And the man who doesn't see it, he is already owned. You think you're free when you chase it. But freedom is not the absence of control. It is the presence of restraint. In the courts of Florence, it wasn't the bold who ruled. It was the disciplined. The ones who knew when not to touch, when not to look, when not to speak. Because every indulgence was recorded in silence. Every desire became a document. And when the time came to seize a man's land, his title, or his influence, all they needed was proof that his impulses commanded him more than he commanded them. Lust makes you confess without words. It makes your eyes speak, your fingers betray, your patterns become public. It erodes your mystery, and without mystery, there is no fear. Without fear, there is no power. Think carefully. The world doesn't attack your lust. It encourages it. It packages it, streamlines it. And you, thinking you are clever, participate in your own downfall. Every like, every swipe, every secret indulgence recorded not just in servers but in your posture, in your decision-making, in your declining attention, your weakening will. Now ask yourself, when did you last say no to lust and feel stronger because of it? When did you walk away, not with guilt, but with a grin that only warriors understand? The man who turns from lust and feels regret is still in chains, but the man who turns from it and feels fire, he is returning. What do they tell you now? That you must express your desires, that suppression is toxic, that your truth must be shared. But expression without structure is chaos, and lust without limits is erosion. The enemy no longer needs to defeat you in battle. They only need to distract you in bed. Lust is no longer private, it has been monetized. And if your weakness can be priced, then your downfall can be scheduled. Look around. Men are not falling in war, they're falling in bedrooms. Not by the sword, but by the screen. Their kingdoms are not lost in combat, but in comments. You used to fight for your name, now you trade it for pixels. You used to build for your bloodline, now you spend your energy in silence and call it escape. This is not just personal, it is political. The man ruled by lust will not rebel. He will not build, he will not resist, he will scroll, submit, and slowly forget he was ever a threat. So what is power then? Power is the man who sits still while the world offers him pleasure. Power is the man who smiles, not when he gets what he wants, but when he denies what others expect him to crave. The man who cannot be tempted is the man who cannot be predicted, and the man who cannot be predicted, he is the most dangerous. You see, lust thrives in repetition. It wants you predictable, bored, aching, hungry. It wants you clicking, chasing, looping, until you no longer ask if this is power, until you no longer ask if you've chosen this life, or if it was chosen for you. A wolf does not chase every rabbit. He conserves, he watches, he selects the moment. Because hunger is not a signal to act, it is a test. The man who fails the test becomes desperate, and desperation is the final nail in a king's coffin. Now imagine this. A young prince sits in a room filled with gold, maps and wine. Outside, a celebration waits. Inside, he studies. He is offered a courtesan. He declines, not because he is shy, but because he is watching his own reactions. He is measuring his pulse. He is sculpting his character. That is power, not the ability to indulge, but the ability to observe your desire without obeying it. Because every time you resist, you sharpen. Every time you say no, you define your edges. And every time you walk away, you build something no algorithm can understand. Mystique. Lust kills mystique. It makes you loud, visible, accessible. And the more accessible you become, the less valuable your presence is. A man who is always available is not a man of power. He is a man on display. The ones who rule quietly are not the ones who are praised for being good. They are feared for being unriddable. They do not share their urges. They transmute them. They do not chase women. They attract loyalty. They do not broadcast their needs. They turn need into strategy. Ask yourself, if a spy were observing your habits, what would he report? That you are in control, or that you are ruled? Before you answer, remember The mirror doesn't lie. It only shows the habits you repeat. Lust begins as a whisper, and so it spreads. Not like fire, but like fog, silent, gentle, creeping into your routines until you cannot tell where you end. Your indulgence begins. It convinces you that it's harmless, that one glance, one scroll, one moment of escape holds no cost. But every whisper leaves a fingerprint, and every fingerprint weakens the grip you have on your own will. This is why empires collapse not from external invasion, but from internal rot. The generals stop meeting, the soldiers stop sharpening. The treasury leaks not from theft, but from distraction. And the king begins to look outside his palace for what he never conquered within. Now hear this. Lust is not evil. Lust is not immoral. Lust is simply ungoverned energy. And when energy is ungoverned, it obeys whoever holds the nearest leash. If you do not master your impulses, someone else will. Watch how it plays out in your life. You delay your work. You skip your training. You let your thoughts wander into fantasy because it feels productive to imagine winning without the discipline of earning it. Lust hijacks your imagination and replaces your ambition with craving. It offers you visions of what could be, but demands nothing in return but your time, your presence, your focus. A slow erosion. That's the genius of it. Not an explosion. A leak. And still, you believe you are in control. You tell yourself you can stop any time, that you're not addicted, that it's just part of being a man. But the man who must explain his impulses is already beneath them. You never have to justify your strength, only your weakness. This is why Machiavelli advised princes to study cruelty, not because they must be cruel, but because they must understand its uses. In the same way, you must study lust. Break it down, watch how it enters, how it hides, the fake promises, its real costs. Don't just avoid it, control it. Power does not come from avoidance. It comes from taking charge. Now imagine a lion in a cage, fed daily, pampered, petted. Does he lose his strength in a day? No. But over time, his roar becomes routine. His steps lose purpose. His eyes forget how to scan for threats. He may still have the claws, but not the will to use them. That is the modern man, fed endlessly by screens, options, images. His instincts are still sharp, but dulled by indulgence. His mind still holds genius, but clouded by gratification. His fire still burns, but buried beneath comfort. And this is the trap. Lust doesn't need to destroy you. It only needs to delay you. A delayed man misses his moment. A distracted man forgets his path. And a pathless man cannot lead anyone, not even himself. So what then is the solution? It's not just about avoiding it. Discipline without understanding turns into frustration, and frustration always finds a way to fight back. No, the answer is transmutation. Take the same energy that once drove you toward indulgence and forge it into strategy, into creation, into movement. Use the tension to build tension in your craft. Use the craving to deepen your hunger for results. Every man has fire, but only a few know how to shape it. Your mind must become your battlefield, your urges, your soldiers. You do not ignore them, you command them. And when you do, you will notice something strange. The world begins to respond differently. People will not be able to name it, but they will feel it. That stillness in your eyes, that quiet in your voice, that calm refusal to chase what others run toward like dogs after scraps. They will sense the difference between a man who wants and a man who decides. Lust is loud, power is silent. The men who make history are not the men who indulge quickly. They are the ones who delay gratification long enough to control the game. Every castle you want, every reputation you admire, every respect you chase, it belongs not to the fastest, but to the most focused. And to become focused, you must clear the noise. Start small. Delay the urge by 1 minute, then 5, then 15. Not to punish yourself, but to prove something. That you are not led by the leash. That your kingdom is not ruled by shadows. Because in every moment of resistance, you rewrite your identity. Not just from weak to strong, but from known to unreadable. And that, more than anything, is what lust tries to take from you, your mystique. When you are known, you are expected. When you are expected, you are predictable. And when you are predictable, you are powerless. So you must become the opposite. Move in patterns only you understand. Withdraw when they expect presence. Show strength when they expect apology. Stay silent when they crave your voice. Let them wonder what drives you. Let them guess what you desire. Let them question how you move forward without needing the same dopamine they do. Because the man who does not need their pleasures becomes their ruler. A man becomes dangerous the moment he learns to delay his pleasure without flinching. Because the world expects your reaction, your hunger, your thirst, your submission. It designs its traps on the assumption that you will not think, only feel, that you will not observe, only chase. But the moment you respond with stillness, everything begins to malfunction around you. The bait loses its power. The hand behind the curtain grows nervous, and you, once predictable, become an anomaly. Lust is the oldest prediction model. It counts on your biology. It banks on your boredom, and so it throws silhouettes, fantasies, and algorithms into your path, whispering, "You deserve this." But entitlement is a crown made of paper, and the man who wears it walks naked into battle. You deserve nothing. You earn everything. What no one tells you is that lust doesn't merely live in desire for flesh. It evolves, it creeps, it adapts. It becomes the lust for attention, the lust for applause, the lust for ease. It is any impulse that demands reward without resistance. Any voice that says, "Now," while your discipline says, "Not yet." And so, the battle is not with lust, it is with urgency. The man who reacts fast is useful. The man who responds slow is feared. That is why the most formidable figures in history were never the loudest, but the slowest to anger, the hardest to read, and the least interested in immediate gratification. There is a pattern. The men who built legacies often lived monastically, alone, focused, unavailable, not because they hated pleasure, but because they recognized it as a tax. And every tax, if left ungoverned, becomes a chain. This is what they fear most, your unavailability. Because when you withdraw your attention, you reclaim your time. When you reclaim your time, you regain your strategy. And when you regain your strategy, you remember who you were before you were distracted. The man who gives into lust is not just giving up discipline, he is renting out his soul by the minute. Every tap, every click, every gaze, they are all micro-leases of your will. And what is left when the will is spent? A man who scrolls more than he builds, who flinches more than he strikes, who reaches for illusion instead of designing reality. And so I ask, is this who you plan to become? Or did the distractions arrive faster than your defenses? Think of the general in his war tent. The map before him, the fate of cities in his hands. Now imagine he stops mid-strategy to entertain a knock at the door from a courtesan or a jester. Would you still call him sovereign? No, you would call him compromised. And yet, you modern man are expected to entertain this knock every minute of your day, through your phone, through your cravings, through your untrained mind. You are not weak because you feel lust. You are weak because you believe you must answer it. A sovereign does not answer every door. There must be a threshold, a line, a moment where you say no more. This palace is under reconstruction. And when you say it not with apology, but with finality. They will not understand. Let them wonder why you are not reacting the way they expect. Let them whisper. Let them call you cold, detached, monastic. Let them misunderstand, because it is in this misunderstanding that you grow your mystique. And mystique is the soil where respect, fear, and fascination are born. You do not owe the world your accessibility. You owe your future your preparation. So you must begin to track the cost of your indulgence. Not in money, in moments. Every moment wasted on lust is a moment delayed in mastery. And mastery is what men admire long after beauty fades. Because beauty is common, discipline is rare. A man who owns his desires becomes magnetic. Not because he is louder, but because he radiates the one thing most men have forfeited, self-command. You cannot fake it. You cannot mimic it. It is forged in solitude, tested in temptation, and revealed in silence. You do not tell the world you are strong. You show them by not needing what they offer. And that is the turning point. The moment you no longer reach for distraction when discomfort visits. Instead, you greet it like an ally, and use it to carve the empire that indulgence would have destroyed. There is a reason kings once lived behind layers of stone, of silence, of ritual, not because they feared the people, but because they understood a brutal truth. The more visible you are, the more vulnerable you become. Lust makes you visible. It pulls you out of your fortress and places you in the town square on display, predictable, easy to reach. It strips you of the one weapon power depends on, mystery. But it does not stop there. Lust doesn't just make you visible, it makes you audible. Your thoughts become louder, your focus scatters, your presence weakens, you speak when you should watch, you move when you should wait, and soon you are no longer acting, you are reacting. That is the beginning of a man's collapse. Not with defeat, but with noise. Because a powerful man is quiet, he lets his reputation speak. His name moves through corridors he never walks into. And when he enters a room, people feel it, not because he demands attention, but because he withholds it. Lust teaches you the opposite. It teaches you to beg for attention, to offer glimpses of yourself in hopes of being chosen, to market your value instead of developing it. And in doing so, it makes you a product, branded, boxed, and replaceable. You must understand, the marketplace of desire has no loyalty. It rewards novelty, not depth, compliance, not character. And when your worth is determined by what you show, you will always feel the pressure to show more. That is not freedom, that is servitude. The man who lives for lust is not a king, he is a performer. And every performance ends the same way, exhausted, unseen, and desperate for the next applause. So what is the alternative? You return to the throne. You rebuild your rituals. You reclaim your silence. You restore the distance between your desire and your decision. You do not chase. You create gravity, and gravity does not beg, it pulls. This begins with presence, not the kind that walks loudly, but the kind that listens deeply, that notices patterns, motives, inconsistencies. The man ruled by lust cannot see these things. He is too occupied with fantasy. But the man governed by restraint, he sees everything. He sees through smiles, through offers, through praise, because he is no longer distracted by the bait. He studies the hook. And this shift changes everything. You no longer seek power through reaction. You gain it through invisibility. You no longer prove your worth. You let it become undeniable through outcomes, not opinions. This is why mystique is not just an aesthetic, it is armor. The less they know about your impulses, the harder it is to move you. And if they cannot move you, they cannot manipulate you. Lust is a map to your weaknesses. Every indulgence is a marked location, a habit, a pattern. And in a world where data is power, your lust is your blueprint. They know when you scroll, when you stop, when you stare too long. They know where to place the next trap. They do not need to chase you. You walk willingly into the net. And that net, it's not made of rope, it's made of habit. The only escape is to become unreadable again. Not by hiding, but by evolving. You do not simply delete the app, you delete the impulse. You do not simply block the number, you block the need. You do not merely walk away from temptation, you outgrow it. Because when you outgrow something, it can no longer control you. It no longer speaks your language, it no longer triggers your hunger. And in that silence, you become sovereign again. Not because you denied yourself everything, but because you understood the cost of chasing what was never meant to lead you. They will not teach you this, because it does not serve them for you to be strong, focused, unmoved. Their economy depends on your indulgence. Their metrics depend on your weakness. Their control depends on your need to feel something now. But you are not here to feel, you are here to build. And a man who builds cannot afford the leak of energy lust demands. Every urge surrendered is a wall unfunded. Every craving obeyed is a blueprint delayed. And every fantasy entertained is a throne left empty. So choose quietly. Either you master your fire, or you burn with it. Let us speak plainly now. You have seen what lust does, not in theory, in your own life, in the lives of those around you. You've seen the men who once walked with purpose, now pacing rooms with blank eyes. You've seen friends lose months to obsession, years to fantasy, entire futures to comfort dressed as pleasure. And maybe in your quietest moments, you've seen it in yourself. Lust is not loud in its destruction. It creeps. not like thunder, but like mold. It softens your vision. It clogs your momentum. It makes you mistake stimulation for satisfaction. You feel busy, but you are not building. You feel exhausted, but you have not moved. This is the genius of lust. It replaces effort with illusion. It makes you feel something without doing anything. But that feeling is poison in disguise, because each time you indulge it, you reinforce a message that reward should come without risk, that attention should come without action, that intimacy should be delivered without intensity. And so you settle for scraps while calling it freedom. But you were not built for scraps. You were not designed to sit, scroll, and salivate. You were made for precision, for dominance, for conquest, not just over land, but over self. And the greatest conquest of all is restraint, because no empire is more difficult to rule than your own instincts. The battlefield is within, a war not of swords, but of seconds. The second you feel the urge, the second you hover your finger, the second your mind offers the same excuse it did yesterday, just this once. That second is your kingdom. Win it, and the rest becomes architecture. Lose it, and the rest becomes apology. You see, it is not about guilt. Guilt is a leash. Power is a choice. And the powerful man understands that his choices echo. They do not end in private. They ripple into posture, energy, reputation. A single indulgence may cost him the edge he needed for war. One night of distraction may dull the instinct he needed to protect his legacy. You are not addicted to lust. You are addicted to leaking your power, because releasing it feels easier than wielding it. But I ask you, what if you stopped? What if for once you held your fire? Not forever, just long enough to feel it sharpen, to let it rise, to let it grow until it fuels your ambition, your discipline, your silence. This is not suppression. This is transmutation, the alchemy of kings, turning hunger into focus, turning desire into direction, turning craving into conquest. Do you think the lion wastes his hunger on shadows? No, he waits, watches, studies, and when he moves, he does not miss. This is what you must become. Not a man who is always resisting, but a man who has evolved past the need to resist, because he no longer seeks the same things. The bait no longer works. The performance no longer seduces. The trap no longer fits. Your identity must shift. You are not the boy chasing stimulation. You are the architect, the war strategist, the ghost in the room who speaks with presence, not persuasion. And here's the secret they will never tell you. Lust is loud because your silence terrifies them. When you are quiet, they do not know where to place you. They cannot price you. They cannot predict you. And in a world obsessed with access, being unreadable is the final power. This is how you regain it. You do not shout. You do not announce your transformation. You disappear into your process. You vanish into your routines. And then, one day, you reappear, sharpened, unmoved, feared, and they will ask what happened to him, but they already know. You stopped leaking and started leading. There is a moment in every man's life where he must decide who is in command. Not the world, not the woman, not the screen, himself. That decision is never loud. It is not made in crowds. It is not marked by applause. It is forged in isolation, in the dim hours where no one watches, no one cheers, and the only judge is the mirror. It is in those moments that kings are born, and it is in those same moments that others become servants to their lower appetites, dressed in the costume of freedom. So now we arrive at the edge. You have heard the warnings, you have seen the traps, you understand what is at stake, and now you must act, not with noise but with absence. You don't need to scream your discipline, you simply exit the game. Lust is a game of attention. Your withdrawal is rebellion. Your silence is resistance. Your focus is declaration, not to the world but to yourself. Let them keep their circus. You are not a performer. You are not for sale. You do not exchange your energy for moments of escape that leave you emptier each time. You are the man who watches, the man who calculates, the man who chooses where his fire flows and where it doesn't, because you understand something deeper now. Lust is never satisfied. It always wants more. But the man who has enough within him cannot be bought. He becomes a mirror, and mirrors are dangerous. They reveal what others refuse to face, so become the mirror. Cold, still, unapologetically clear. Let others blur themselves in fantasy. You will cut through it. You will build something lust cannot touch, a presence that is unshakable, a legacy not earned through noise, but through governance of self. That is what makes you untouchable. That is what makes you rare. And in a world drowning in exposure, rare becomes royal. So now I leave you with this. Your silence will be misunderstood. Your discipline will be mocked. Your absence will be questioned. Let it happen. Because while they wonder what happened to you, you will be building the life that explains it. If this message touched something inside you, write it below. I am no longer ruled. Let us see who among you is ready to return to the throne. And don't stop here. The next video will sharpen your edge even further. Watch it. It matters more than you know. See you there.